from the bottom of page 22b, the very last line, going on to 23a, Daf Chav Beis till Daf Chav Gimel. Amar Rav Chia bar Avin. After having had a long discussion, what is the appropriate method of bowing down to Hashem that was done in the Beis HaMikdash, and the appropriate method to be done in Shul? We spoke about a Adam Chashuv, an important person, should not bow down in front of everybody. We mentioned the story of Levi. Levi demonstrated how to bow down on his thumbs, and he became injured in front of Rabbi Gamliel, and we said that was the physical thing which caused an injury. Spiritual reason was because of the Gemara in Mesechta Tainis Daf Chaf Hey, which Levi, when he davened to Hashem one time and rain did not come down, and so Levi, at the end of the fast, he said to Hashem, he spoke very chutzpahdik words towards Hashem. Hashem, you have ascended up high and you do not have mercy on your children. Rain came down, but as a punishment, when Levi demonstrated how to bow down on his face while being on his thumbs, balancing on his thumbs and his large toe, so then he became injured and he became lame as a result of that. I mean, so to speak, Kaviyachal, yesterday was a yard site of a woman. Her name was Pesha Leah Lapine. A woman, she's in Crown Heights, and unfortunately, this is in the year 1992. She was in her own house. Her house was broken into. She was assaulted and murdered in front of, I think, her children. And by her levaya, by her funeral, the Rebbe came out, and the Rebbe spoke a sikha during the tshiva, very strong words, almost speaking directly to, not to the people listening, but to Hashem. How could such a thing happen? Especially we're a time when we have miracles left and right, and how could such a thing happen? The Rebbe said the words, and the children, when they grow up and get married, they will tell their children how their mother had mesiras nefesh, and self-sacrifice. Everybody then was very shocked because the Rebbe was speaking literally in those days. HaMashiach's coming instantly, momentarily. And here the Rebbe is speaking about how the children will miss their mother, and they will tell their children how their mother had mesiras nefesh. And they remember that, there's some of her children, are my age even, and they would always push you to get married and have children, because the Rebbe said that you have to tell your children about the mesiras nefesh of your mother. We have to do that before Mashiach comes. So Levi did a similar thing. He spoke directly to Hashem. When it comes to the needs of the Jewish people, he put them in front of everything. And as a result, Levi himself became physically injured. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Chia, to conclude the discussion, what is the appropriate method of bowing down when you bow? Says Rav Chia bar Avin, in the name son of Rav Avin, Chazina lahu la'abaya. We turn the page. So Daf Chav Gimel Amar Aleph 23a. V'Rava b'matzli atzluye. I have seen Rava and Abaya when they would bow down in shul, they would not bow directly like everyone else, prostrating themselves. Rather, they would bow to their sides. Either because, as a Ritva writes, that they were Adam Chashuv, they were Abaya and Rava, some of the greatest authors of the Mishnah, of the Gemara. And for them, it would be embarrassing. It wouldn't be befitting for them to bow in public. As we said, only someone who was like on the caliber of Yeshua ben Nun could bow in public. Otherwise, if they say you're bowing to Hashem and your prayers are not answered, or it means that there was a stone floor and they would not bow down on the stone floor, and therefore they just literally bent over instead of prostrating themselves entirely. Yasi, shalom aleichem, welcome, so happy you're here.
Shalom aleichem, Rabbi, good morning.
Good morning, welcome back. There's Baruch Hashem, good news from the land of Israel, and it's only a start.
Thank God. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So Abaye and Rava would bow their heads sort of like we do during Moedim, or as the Ritva writes, they would bow to the side. But they would not bow down directly, spreading out their hands and feet in the shul in front of everybody, because it was a stone floor. That concludes the discussion in the Gemara and the entertaining demonstration we had about bowing. The Gemara will now continue for the next Amud until the next Mishnah. So for about the next page, the Gemara continues a discussion of all the opinions. How many people, how many aliyos are called to the Torah on any given day? We established, and this is not going to be up for discussion, on Monday, Thursday, Shabbos, Mincha, we have 3 people called to the Torah, 1 for Kohen, 1 for Levi, 1 for Yisrael. Each one has at least 3 psukim, and we'll discuss that a little further down and later on in this Mesechta. On Rosh Chodesh, we have an extra korban, an extra sacrifice in the Beis HaMikdash called a Musaf, and we have an extra aliyah, an extra person called to the Torah for that. On a fast day, we have 3 people that we finished discussing already. Now, Yom Tiv, a holiday, a halacha is we call 5 people because it's aser b'melacha, cannot do any type of work. Yom Kippur, which is even more stringent, even more types of labor are forbidden on Yom Kippur. So on Yom Kippur, we call 6 people, plus there's a more severe penalty for doing malacha. And on Shabbos, we call 7 people to the Torah. We're going to bring a dissenting opinion, a different opinion on the matter. Shalom Aleichem, Reb Moshe. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, hi Dovi. Oh, Shalom Aleichem.
Aleichem Shalom.
Says the Gemara, B'yom Tov Chamisha. Quoting our Mishnah said in Yom Tov we call up 5 people to the Torah. B'yom Kippurim Shisha. On Yom Kippur we call up 6 people to the Torah. Shabbos we call up 7 people. On all the other holidays, you cannot add to the number of aliyos. So you have a bar mitzvah, you have a chasen. You cannot add on to the number of people called to the Torah. On Shabbos, you are allowed to add on to the number of people called to the Torah. Says the Gemara, Masnisin Mani. The Gemara will bring a brisa, which will have 2 different opinions of the great Rabbi Shmuel and the great Rabbi Akiva, which our Mishnah does not concur with either of these 2 opinions. Masnisin Mani, with which opinion of a Tana, a scholar from the generation of the Mishnah, does our Tana concur? Loi Rabbi Shmuel, v'loi Rabbi Akiva. It does not concur with Rabbi Shmuel, does not concur with Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, the compiler of the Mishnah, he wrote our Mishnah without an author's name. So who is the author of our Mishnah? He compiled it from many different brisas. So let's find a brisa. We have a brisa quoting Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, and our Mishnah does not concur with either of them. The Tanya, we learned in a brisa, a teaching from the sages of the Mishnah, which is not included in the Mishnah. B'yom tov chamisha, u'b'yom kippurim shisha, u'v'shabbos shiva. On a holiday, Yom Tov, let's say Rosh Hashanah, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, you call up 5 people to the Torah. On Yom Kippur, you call up 6 people to the Torah. On Shabbos, 7, but he adds a caveat, Ein parichasim mehen, ve'ein meisifin alehen, divrei Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says you cannot do less, aliyos in that amount, and you cannot add on more than that amount, which seemingly sounds like that according to Rabbi Shmuel, on Shabbos, you're not allowed to have more than 7 aliyos. And our Mishnah said, on Shabbos, you could add on more than 7. Continues the Brisa. Rabbi Akiva Omer, says Rabbi Akiva, B'yom tov chamisha, on Yom Tov, on a holiday, you have 5 aliyos to the Torah, but now he does a little somersault. Uv'yom HaKippurim Shiva, on Yom Kippur, you have 7 aliyos, 7 people called to the Torah. Uv'Shabbos Shisha, on Shabbos, you have 6. And person alayin, you do not do less and you do not do more. But according to Rabbi Akiva, a regular Shabbos only has 6 aliyos, and he cannot add on to that. So that means, let's say, the 6th aliyah, Shishi, would read Shishi and Shvi together. And a Shabbos would have less aliyos than Yom Kippur, which would have 7 aliyos. And Yom Kippur will be on a higher level of sanctity than Shabbos. What were the reasons that Yom Kippur should have more aliyos than Shabbos? I mean, it's a very simple, logical reason that you could think of is that on Shabbos, there's a mitzvah la'anig as a Shabbos. To have tainuk, to make Shabbos enjoyable, to have a big feast, a big meal, make kiddush and wine, eat meat, eat fish, have 2 chalas. So there's tircha d'tzibura. People need to get home and eat their meal on Shabbos and eat an extra meal. On Yom Kippur, there's no Yom Kippur Kiddush, nowhere to run to. There's only a break fast. So Yom Kippur, people could be in shul longer. And on Shabbos, people need to get home. Rabbi Shmuel holds that whatever day is more sacred has more aliyos. So Yom Tov is more holy than Rosh Chodesh because you can't do malacha, can't do work. Yom Kippur is more holy because you can't even do the malacha, the work that's necessary for echol nefesh, for food preparation, which you could do on Yom Tov. And on Shabbos is even more severe than Yom Kippur because on Shabbos the penalty is skila, is a misa, it's a capital punishment for transgressing Shabbos as opposed to Yom Kippur, which is kares, which is not a capital punishment.
You could also say that, on the other hand, that Yom Kippur is called Shabbat Shabbaton. So perhaps Yom Kippur has more, more chashivas than Shabbos.
Oh, very good. Yeah, Yom Kippur is Shabbos Shabbosin. Saying according to Chassidus, we explain how the Achas Bashana, the level of sanctity in Yom Kippur, is much greater than Shabbos. The sanctity of the fact that on Yom Kippur you don't eat or drink or wear leather shoes, and the other inuyim, you don't wash yourself and smear yourself with anything on, and that makes it more sacred. You could say that, but the question is, on Pesach we don't need chametz a whole entire week. So you're also having an ino, you could say, unless you own Streicher's, Ladyfinger's company, Pesach, you hold yourself back from food, right? It's a Yom Tov where you also have an inoi, a holding yourself back from pleasure, and we don't add any aliyos on Pesach for that. Yom Kippur also, we have something in addition that we don't have on Shabbos, which is a 5th tefillah, 5th prayer, the tefillah of Ne'ilah, that we do only on Yom Kippur and not on any other fast day, even Tisha B'Av, which you don't work half a day, even there we don't do Ne'ilah. So because of that, and earlier we connected an additional aliyos with additional tefillahs, amount of prayers that you have that day. And Rosh Chodesh, we said, was you daven musaf on that day. And we connected it with the idea of more tefillah. So on Yom Kippur, we have an Ne'ilah, which you don't have on Shabbos, so therefore you should have more sanctity than you have on Shabbos. So this could explain the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. So answers the Gemara, says the Gemara Mani, to bring out the question, who is our Mishnah going like? Rabbi Yishmael Kasha Tosfos. Rabbi Akiva Kasha Shisha V'Shiva. Seemingly cannot go according to Rabbi Yishmael or Rabbi Akiva. For Rabbi Yishmael, although the order of aliyos, which day has how many aliyos, is concurrent with our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said that on Yom Kippur we have 6 aliyos, and on Shabbos we have 7 aliyos. However, our Mishnah stated that on Shabbos you could add on more than 7. According to Rabbi Yishmael, as we quoted him, he says you cannot add on. You're not allowed to add on more than the number. That means on Shabbos you can't have more than 7. So it cannot be Rabbi Yishmael because of that detail that you cannot. That Rabbi Yishmael says Shabbos you cannot add more than 7, and halachically you could, and the Mishnah says you can, and it cannot be Rabbi Akiva because Rabbi Akiva puts a sanctity on Yom Kippur over Shabbos. That's 7 aliyos over 6 aliyos. I mean, perhaps maybe it connects to the idea of Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, as explained in several places. Rabbi Shmuel was a Kohen Gadol, where he's the holiest, the greatest of all Jews. To be a Kohen Gadol, to go into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur, he had to be someone unique altogether. And so Rabbi Shmuel, he perhaps understood the advantage of holiness. Shabbos is a holy day. Yom Kippur, which is by itself, you don't have to sanctify it. Yom Kippur is a day which comes as a result of the Bezdin, meaning the 10th day of the month of Tishrei, which comes as a result of people. When you have the witnesses come, any average Jew could come and be a witness when they saw a new moon. Based on that is when the first day of Tishrei or Shoshana is. Based on that is when Yom Kippur is the 10th day from Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. And that's a day of Teshuvah for everybody. So Rabbi Akiva, whose parents were Gerim, he came from Edom, and he himself wasn't a Kohen Gadol. At the age of 40, he became a Baal Tshuva. He started learning Torah, learning the Aleph Beis at the age of 40. So he appreciates the advantage of Yom Kippur, which comes from below, which comes from the people have to sanctify it. And it's a day of Teshuvah, so perhaps Rabbi Akiva holds that Yom Kippur has more sanctity than Shabbos. I don't know, perhaps. So there's a question: who does our Mishnah go like? Not Rabbi Akiva, not Rabbi Yishmael. Answers the Gemara. Man Tana. The Lahadatanya. There is another brisa which we also do not know the author of. And after asking the second question, the Gemara will answer both. There's another brisa which was taught to Tanya b'yantov ma'akrin lavai u'mumarin latzis b'yom kippurim u'mumarin latzis. It says on a Yom Tov, on a holiday, everyone is late to come to shul, because people are getting ready for the meal. Because on Yom Tov, on the holiday, you're allowed to cook. Many people, in the times of the Mishnah, they would shecht, they would slaughter animals in the morning because, wanted to have fresh meat. There's no refrigeration. Not like today, we could cook a month in advance and freeze it and then just defrost it. It had to be done fresh that day. And there's a lot of preparation necessary and needed in order to prepare the Yom Tov meal. It wasn't just taking things out of the fridge and setting it up. And people came to shul late. And they would also not sit around in shul too long. They would try leaving as quick as possible because they have to go home and have Simchas Yom Tov. Rabbi Yaakov Emtin, was one of the great, he lived in Istanbul, the Yaibetz, Siddur Yaibetz, he was a great Mekubal, a great Rav. just around the time of the Baal Shem Tov, slightly, just around that time, the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid, although they were in a different continent. So the Yibitz writes a very fascinating thing on this word, on these words over here. People leave shul early, people come to shul late and leave shul early on Yom Tov because, as Rashi says, they're going to prepare for the meal of Yom Tov. He says, who's usually preparing the meal, preparing the food? Usually it's the woman. What are the men doing? Right? On Shabbos, the men are usually in shul, and the women usually set up the table. But what are the men doing on Yom Tov? So he says a very interesting thing. He says that the men, while the wives are busy preparing the meal, the men have to stay home and watch the kids. They have to watch the children. So they come late to shul because they're watching their children. I guess that's a source over here in the Gemara where it's you could come late to shul if you're watching your children. Perhaps that's an excuse. And they have to, while the women are getting ready, the children can't bother them, and the women also need help from their wives, also need help from their husbands, and therefore it's a mitzvah to help your wife. So you see, very important from our Gemara, they even take into account that you can come late to shul because you have to help your wife. It's a very big mitzvah, and it's a very big obligation, and big schus, that even supersedes sometimes coming on time to shul if your wife needs your help. Uve Shabbos, Mimarin lavai umimarin latzes. On Shabbos, people come early to shul because now you cannot prepare, you can't cook any food, you can't shecht any animals, and you don't prepare anything fresh on that day. It's just literally, it's like more setting the table, but none of the baking or things like that take place on, or cooking take place on Shabbos. And therefore, all the preparations for the Shabbos meal took place on Erev Shabbos. So it's very proper for people to come to shul early. And as Rashi says over here, very interesting Rashi, to read Shema Kivasikin. Read Shema Yisrael. You're supposed to say it in the morning, but he says even on Shabbos to do it Vasikin, to do it early in the morning. Which perhaps this is connected to the previous, what we said before. There's a certain very, Chassidish Yid, a very big mashpia. He would daven every single Shabbos morning at 7 a.m. He would go to shul, and daven with the early minyan, and then come home. He says, "Why are you davening so early on Shabbos? You want to finish your meal early?" He said, "No, I want my wife to be able to go to shul, and she goes to shul by the main minyan, 10 o'clock in the morning. I go to shul at that 7:30 minyan, and she'll go, and I go home and watch the kids, and she goes to shul at the 10 a.m. minyan. Perhaps that's a source. Perhaps a proper thing to do. Don't say I'm not going to go to shul because I have to watch my kids. Go at 7 a.m. So on Shabbos, Memari and Lava, as Rashi says, you should come to shul early, and it's a mitzvah to come early to shul on Shabbos. And people many times leave quickly because they want to get home and have a Shabbos meal, an Oinik Shabbos, a Shabbos pleasure with the Shabbos Suda and Divrei Torah, etc. on Shabbos. As the Gemara understands right now, the entire length of davening has nothing to do with what the Chazan is singing, nothing to do with how many tunes the Chazan adds on, nothing to do with how long the rabbi's speech is. What makes davening shorter or longer is how many people receive an aliyah, how many people are called to the Torah on that day. 4, 5, 6, or 7. Mind you, the Torah reading is the same Torah reading, the same length. It's how many people receive the aliyah. And since the length of davening is congruent, corresponds to the amount of people who receive an aliyah to the Torah that day, lema, let us say that Rabbi Akiva, the Isla Gavri Yisera, Rabbi Akiva, which says that on Yom Kippur, you have more people receiving an aliyah than Yom Kippur. You have 7 people called to the Torah, according to Rabbi Akiva, on Yom Kippur. And on Shabbos, you only have 6 people called to the Torah, according to Rabbi Akiva. And therefore, the davening of Yom Kippur is longer than the davening of Shabbos. Not because of all the extra piyutim we say, but rather because of the extra person called to the Torah. Even though the Torah reading of Yom Kippur is a longer Torah reading because you're reading Parshas Acharemus, the Gemara at this point understands that it's calling every person up for an aliyah is what takes time. Not so much the actual reading of the Torah takes time, but every person makes a bracha before the reading and after the reading. And now we do mishaberachs for each person, and that's what takes the time. So the more aliyos you have, the more time it takes, the more people that are called, not so much their length. On Yom Kippur, we read half a parsha of Acharemus in the morning, half a parsha by Mincha. By on Shabbos, you read an entire parsha. But still, it's the aliyos, amount of people are being called to the Torah, that's what takes up more time. So according to Rabbi Akiva, which you have 7 people called to the Torah on Yom Kippur, so you could say that because people are not rushing to leave shul on Yom Kippur, because there's no oineg, there's no pleasure on Yom Kippur, there's no big meal involved, there's no... So therefore, the brisa could be, according to Rabbi Akiva, the Mishnah said like Rabbi Shmuel. Let's say Rabbi Akiva says the reason why we have another aliyah is because on Yom Kippur is because you have more time in shul. But at this point, we still have a question: who is our Mishnah like? Is it Rabbi Shmuel? Is it Rabbi Akiva? This last statement, which we said that on Yom Tiv people rush to shul, and people come late and they rush to leave on Yom Tiv, and the Shabbos people come on time and people rush to leave. That could go according to Rabbi Akiva, because then consonant to that on Yom Kippur people come on time because there's no preparations for the meal. There's no mikvah on Yom Kippur either. Everyone comes to shul on time. And you leave late because there's no meal to run home to. So therefore, on Yom Kippur, you can have 7 aliyos. So the second brisa we just brought could fit with Rabbi Akiva, which says the reason you have more or less aliyos has to do with how much time people could spend in shul based on the need to get home to prepare or help for the meal. However, the first Mishnah, our Mishnah cannot fit with Rabbi Akiva, because our Mishnah said on Shabbos we have 6 aliyah, on Shabbos you have 7, and Yom Kippur you have 6, and this brisa seemingly cannot fit with Rabbi Akiva. Answers the Gemara, afilu tema. Last words, afilu tema Rabbi Yishmael. Dinafish shidura diyema. No. The reason why people are late in shul, according to Rabbi Shmuel, is not because the amount of aliyos people call to the Torah. Rather, the reason people are late to shul is because you have to, the whole seder of the day, a whole order of the day, specifically called the Seder Avodah. On Yom Kippur, we say the entire order of the service of the Kohen Gadol, what they would do in the Beis HaMikdash on Yom Kippur. And in Yom Kippur, we have many extra piyutim, many extra poems, many extra tefillos that we say because of the holiness of the day, and it's a day of forgiveness. And therefore, the day of Yom Kippur has many is a much longer davening. So the davening is extended not because of the amount of aliyos, but rather because it's nafesh shidur diyam. The day itself is a very long day. And therefore, this last Mishnah could go according to Rabbi Shmuel. The reason why people come late to shul or leave shul early on different days is because of they have to get home for the meal. But on Yom Kippur, the people stay long in shul, not because they want to come earlier to shul or stay late in shul, but rather because there's many additions to davening. The Ramah writes, Ramosha Isserlish, he says on Shabbos, you should start davening later than you start during the week. So if every single day you daven at 7 a.m., davening should start later, should come to shul later on Shabbos than you come during the week, which is many or most shuls actually do that they have davening starting later. The reason is because we say this every single day during davening. It says in Parshas Pinchas, let's go Pinchas. In Parshas Pinchas, so let's go to the 6th aliyah. Parshas Pinchas. Let's go to the 6th aliyah. So the 5th aliyah. We have a daily offering, all right? You have a daily offering which takes place every single day. And it says, tell the Jewish people to bring for me a daily karban, a daily offering. And it says, baboiker, baboiker. Shnayim layoim, oila samid. One lamb you shall offer up in the morning. Boker means morning, when the sun comes up. So on a daily on a daily schedule, every single day when we daven, we cannot bring the daily morning karban anymore in the Beis Hamikdash. So we do it every single day, as soon as the day becomes light. So as soon as after Netzach Chama, after sunrise, that's when they would bring the morning karban, the morning sacrifice, and therefore we daven Shachris every day on a weekday early in the morning. Comes to Shabbos, doesn't say the word boker in the morning, rather it says uveyoim haShabbos, and on the Shabbos day, unlike the daily offering which says in the morning. So therefore, on Shabbos, we don't do it in the morning, rather daytime, a little bit later in the day. And that has to do with the theme of Shabbos, on a day of Shabbos, where you don't do things rushed, rather you do things slower, and it's a day of menucha, a day of tranquility. And so when the Gemara says over here, the Ramah explains, in halacha, when the Gemara says over here that on Shabbos, memaharin lavai, on Shabbos, one is quick to arrive in shul, as a meal has been prepared before Shabbos. Doesn't mean that you have to arrive in shul earlier than you arrive during the week. It means that you're quicker, that you're later than a weekday, but on Yom Tov, on a holiday, you could you come even later. I mean, you come sooner. Memaharin means sooner than in Yom Tov. As we said before, in Yom Tov, many people will come late because they're helping their wives at home. So on Shabbos, when you come to shul, you come sooner than you come on a Yom Tov, not a holiday. But you do come later than you come on a regular day to shul. With this, we'll pause the Gemara over here.